Welcome back. Another new migrant caravan on the way. This is about 2,000 illegal migrants on the caravan headed to the United States southern border. They're coming from Mexico just 2 weeks before the presidential election. The surge in immigrants coming, as many of them are reportedly worried that if Donald Trump is elected, he will end asylum appointments through the CBP-1 app. They're probably right about that. Joining us now is former National Border Patrol Council President Brandon Judd. Brandon, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. So we got another caravan on the way. Do you know anything about this? What can you tell us, and what's your reaction?
Yeah, this just shows you how intelligent the cartels are, and that's the most dangerous aspect of border security, dealing with the criminal organizations that control every single facet of how people cross our borders illegally. What they're doing is they're recognizing that right now is the time to try to make as much profit as they possibly can before President Trump gets into office, because they know that once he does, it's going to be very difficult for their bottom line. They're going to have to adjust their business operations. But what they do is they look at our policies. They test the pulse of what the politics are here in the United States, and they tailor their operations based upon our policies. And this administration's policies have clearly allowed them to generate profits that have just never been seen before. So this caravan that's coming up, this is driven by the cartels recognizing that they need to generate profit right now.
I mean, we've been talking about these cartels for a long time now, Brandon. I mean, is this administration ignoring the drug cartels? Do they not understand that these very dangerous cartels are actually putting people's lives in jeopardy, exploiting women and children, sex trafficking, bringing all these drugs in? Why hasn't this president and vice president taken on the Mexican drug cartels who are working with the Chinese Communist Party to create this death and destruction in America?
First, they do understand it. You know, everybody knows that we have the best intel operations in the entire world. We know what's going on. We know what the driver is. We know who the bad actors are. We know everything about these cartels, whether it's the Sinaloa cartel, the Gulf cartel. We know everything about them. The problem is politics always gets in the way. And when that happens, you're looking at the base voters. The Democrats recognize and understand that their base support, they want open borders. And so if they were to shut down those borders, then they're going to have a lot less people that turn up to the polls when they vote. So that's the problem, again, with politics, is we put the aspirations of single individuals ahead of what's best for this country. And that's what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has done constantly. You know, they tout we need legislation. And while we do absolutely need legislation, Congress has to step to the plate to give us good legislation, not the legislation that Kamala Harris is constantly talking about, so that we don't have one person controlling everything, so that we have laws that will shut this down. But there are policies right now that she could do that would secure our border, that would allow us to ensure that these cartels don't generate the profit that they do.
Liz, jump in here.
Good morning. It seems like the administration has changed some rules, being panicked. The polling showed that people were really angry about illegal immigration. But don't those rules changes have anything to do with these caravans? We haven't seen a big caravan like this for a while. Am I wrong on that? I mean, isn't there something that will prevent these people from coming into the country at this point?
So it just depends on how they try to do it, whether they use the CBP-1 app, cross the border illegally in certain locations and claim asylum. So there's different ways that they can exploit the loopholes that this administration has created. So when they talk about, you know, we've driven numbers down, well, they've driven numbers down from their highs, not from Donald Trump's highs, but from their highs. And these numbers are still, looking at what Jay Johnson, former DHS Secretary under Obama, said, we're still experiencing catastrophic numbers every single day at our border. We're still experiencing well over 1,000 apprehensions, which again is which is the red line that Jay Johnson put. We're still experiencing really, really high numbers. So these migrant caravans, although we haven't seen them in the past, we're seeing the equivalent of a caravan every single day spread out across our entire southwest border.
I mean, the issue of being unvetted is really what gets me. And we've got this new video which shows a large group of illegal migrants spotted near the Texas border this weekend. This includes 32 unaccompanied minors and 7 special interest migrants from Iran and Africa. Special interest migrants come from countries that pose a potential national security risk to the United States. Meanwhile, an illegal Honduran migrant has been sentenced to 37 years in prison in Texas. He was convicted of leading an organized criminal operation that was responsible for a series of high-profile home burglaries. He's already been deported from the United States twice. In Florida, a trio of illegal migrants arrested last week for sexual crimes against a child under 12 years old. I mean, the list keeps on going. Investigators say they entered the country illegally in 2021. They turned themselves into Border Patrol. They were told to call for a court date. They never did, obviously, Brandon. You've told us this story over and over again. I mean, why the U.S., officials believe that they're actually going to call you for a court date. They come in and then they rape and they kill, and we're supposed to accept another caravan of unvetted people.
Yeah, and again, it strictly comes down to the policies that are being exploited by criminal organizations. We could shut down these organizations tomorrow. We have the power to do it. Kamala Harris promises that if she gets in the White House, that she will do it. We shouldn't. There's no reason that we have to believe her when she could do it right now. Simple policies will allow us to control this. She's not giving us those policies, so there's no reason that she's given us for us to believe that she will do it if she wins the presidency, which I don't think that she's going to.
So, I mean, look, if she does win, Border Patrol agents are threatening that they are going to leave in droves. Okay, so I want to get your take on it. You speak to your colleagues, your former colleagues as well. Multiple agents told the New York Post they cannot face another 4 years of being undermined and scapegoated. They say if Donald Trump wins, they'll stay. Trump received a unanimous endorsement from the Border Patrol Union last week, and as you know, the union includes 16,000 men and women. He also recently unveiled a new border plan to bring in 10,000 new Border Patrol agents who would get an immediate 10% raise and a $10,000 retention and signing bonus, Brandon. But if he doesn't win, they say they're out of there. What have you heard?
Yeah, people want to feel like their job means something. They want to feel like they're accomplishing something when they go home every single day. And right now, Border Patrol agents don't feel that way. We feel more like the welcome patrol rather than the Border Patrol. No enforcement, just completely letting people go. We have to feel like our job means something. If we don't, they will leave.
Yeah. Brandon, it's great to have you this morning, as always. Thank you so much, and thanks for all of your work, your great work for this country. Brandon Judd joining us this morning. Thanks, sir.